Kara, how are you? Welcome to Diaspora Food Stories.
Good, good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really
Abs-
excited to be here.
Absolutely. And when I can travel to New Orleans and don't have to be there, it's always a good time.
Look, you have to look me up.
Absolutely. Well, we're excited because again, New Orleans is one of the my favorite places for food, for history, for
Mhm.
culture. And we were just talking before we got started, and just you knowing that family history that traces all the way back so far, and just being in New Orleans and knowing that special thing. So I'm excited to dive into that. Share your story, let our listeners learn a little bit more about who you are. So let's kick it off because obviously, born and raised proud New Orleans or Nolans and all the way you say it, native.
Yeah, so my family has literally been here, I say forever, but since the late 1700s.
Hmm.
And my family history, it's varied. We have a white side and a black side. You know, they it started in France, moved to Cuba.
Okay. Oh,
Then
nice. Okay.
some, ancestors from Haiti, and it all culminated here and kind of made that gumbo that
Mm.
we like to eat. So it's an interesting story.
Wow. So who is the griot or the story, the keeper of the stories in your family?
Well, it has passed down, believe it or not, it has kind of fallen to me. But the people in my family lived a very long time. So
Okay.
my great grandparents lived to be in their 90s.
Wow.
And I grew up with them, talking to them, hearing all the stories. My grandmother, my, mom, and my aunt. Well, my mom and my aunt looked up the history
Okay.
to kind of verify everything that they had heard,
Hmm.
their entire lives, basically.
Right.
And it all, came together. And actually, my great great grandmother, her name was Marie Metier Reveal. She
Mm.
had a restaurant in the French Quarter called the Cook Shop, and the seasonings are named after the restaurant. And it's her, cooking tradition that was passed down to her and then passed down to, the generations onto me. And
Right.
because I did not like to cook and chop all those vegetables and the seasonings and everything that goes into a good meal, I
Hmm.
created the seasonings that have everything my family cooked with. So
Wow.
it's in a bottle, and I can just go.
There you go. Hey, that's an important part too, right?
Right,
That's
right.
keeping it alive. That is so powerful because, as people of African descent are continue to trace our history, know who we are, so important
Mhm.
in how we move forward in the world. Was that really instilled in the family of really understanding that history and really making sure that it's preserved somehow?
It really has been. And I think that it's because I had my great grandparents,
Hmm.
and they would always talk about family. I mean, we would get around at family gatherings, and they would talk to us. That was like part of it, just laughing and talking
Right.
about stories from the past.
Mhm.
And my great grandfather, his parents were slaves
Okay.
or enslaved. His dad actually fought in the Civil War. His grandfather fought in the Civil War. And he would tell. I loved to sit and talk with him,
Hmm.
and to say that his parents were enslaved, but he actually went to college, and was just like absolutely amazing. Had a photographic memory,
Nice.
and we would go over to their house. Like that was the gathering spot for my family, like just about every day. Everybody was there. It was like generations of women cooking, and we
Mhm.
had this amazing food every day, homemade desserts from scratch, like literally
Wow.
every day. So
Wow.
it was special. It was very special.
So as you're growing up, I'm from the Midwest, right? So
Mhm.
obviously we're eating different things from you being in South and New Orleans. When
Right.
did you start to realize, wow, people really love this is gumbo and etouffee and all of that? When did what part in your life did you say, you know what? that's just normal for us here, but to the
Right.
world, it's like, wow.
I may have been much older, like really lot older, because to me, I just thought that everybody ate really amazing meals every day. Especially the people here, but a lot of people here said, "Are you serious? Y'all had that?" Like, different backgrounds, white, black,
Mhm,
whatever. They just not everyone, had that experience, and I think
mhm.
that it's because of the restaurant.
Right.
Like, my great-grandmother, when she was, a young girl, basically, she and her sister worked in the restaurant,
Okay.
and she kind of, that same cooking tradition was what she incorporated with her family, and it was just passed down, and we were literally all together.
Wow.
Like everybody was together.
So what was your journey in terms of, career-wise, as you were going down that journey? Was food in the picture? Was creating seasonings that captured the family legacy? Was that in your head going through, as you were going through life?
Honestly, like, as a little girl, I was really fascinated with cooking and food and, like, having a cooking show, and so I would go in the kitchen and make up recipes and act like, I was, I don't know, Julia Child or or somebody like that, and, it's weird because, I would experiment a lot, and I did iced coffee.
Okay.
And I brought it to my family. I'm like, "Y'all taste this," and I put, different stuff in it, and I'm like, "This is amazing." And they're like, "Girl, nobody wants cold coffee."
Oh, little do they know now, right?
But then, I ended up going to law school, went on a completely different, path, and, it's kind of I know what actually brought me back to it. Got married, and, I have a son. He is 14 now. But
Mhm.
when I started, he must have been about, like, 8, 8 or 9, kind of, looking into it. And this is a child, he's 14, he's 6'2",
Mhm.
like, solid, solid. And he does not like to eat out,
Oh,
too much. From a child, he always wanted home cooked meals.
y'all
It
spoiled them.
it's like, well, I didn't
Oh,
spoil
yeah, you didn't spoil him. Grandma them and aunties done
he
spoiled him,
demanded
huh?
it. I mean, he just that's just how he was. He demanded. He did not and when he was, old enough to really explain himself, he's like, Ma, I really don't like fast food.
Okay.
The only thing that I would eat, like, if we went somewhere like that is McDonald's, and when we would go to restaurants, I have an uncle who cooks incredibly well, and, he would say, "Is it like Uncle Kenneth's jambalaya?" Or he would say, "No, I
That's
wanna
hard.
order Uncle Kenneth's blah, blah, blah." It's like, you can only get that at Uncle Kenneth's house, okay? But, since he wanted me to cook, and I would spend all day, like, literally all day, like, chopping up all this stuff, trying to get everything together, and sometimes you wouldn't be able to get all the ingredients, and I just got the idea to, um, put everything together so that it would be a lot easier on me.
Mhm.
And, I have a friend who's a chef. We've been friends for about 20 years, and I called him, asked him to, I told him what I wanted to do, and he came over. And so, like, with my seasonings, a lot of times seasonings have a salt base,
Right.
but with mine, it's literally the vegetables, herbs, and spices.
Nice.
So
Nice.
they're low sodium, not intentionally, but that's just because that's how my family cooked.
Mhm.
And, they're like 2% sodium.
Nice.
So, it just turned out it's kinda weird, but I didn't know what I was doing when I got
Mhm.
into it. I was still working and all that stuff, and just kind of did the research, went along with it. Um a lot of praying,
Mhm.
okay,
Mhm.
about what to do, and it didn't take a long time. So it was about a year,
Okay.
And my first tasting, this guy, Donnie Rouse, walked in right off the street into my first tasting.
Okay.
And he owns a regional grocery chain. And they have like it's the big deal here. So the whole time, when I was working on the seasonings, my friends would say, "Oh, are you going to be in Rouse's? Are you going to be in Rouse's?" And I'm thinking, I would just say, "Yeah." I wasn't going to say no, So I would just say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna be in Rouse's." And the man literally walked in off the street.
Wow. Call it in, huh? Call
Right,
it in.
right.
So
So,
what was that moment? Because obviously you were practicing law, being a
mhm,
lawyer. One thing I love about talking to different entrepreneurs is, we start off one way, but then there's a calling that tags us the other way, even, or even if we're doing both. But the bottom line is there's something from the past, especially with cooking, that seed that was planted really starts to bloom and
yeah.
calls us back to it. And so what really made you go over and go change your trajectory in a way to really go into your seasoning business?
Because I'm really a creative at
Mhm,
heart. I
mhm,
mean, storyteller, that's one of the things that I liked about the law is the writing
mhm,
and, doing the research and finding about these people's lives and just putting that story together.
mhm,
Um, and for me, food was just I say that it is truly an expression of love
mhm.
because that's how my family show love. I mean, when my grandmother would, sit like those homemade desserts and the way she would just put so much into it.
Right.
And it's like it just felt like love. Like it just
Mhm.
felt like, they spoiled us with food. And I had this great aunt, her name was Velma, and for everybody's birthday, she would bake you her homemade, cake. And she would ask
Love it.
what kinda icing you wanted, and in my family, they celebrated everybody's birthdays. So there might be 3 birthdays on the cake, everybody had their cake, and we were all there,
Oh.
singing happy birthday. So and she would say, "Oh, you know what?" And they were like, they would melt in your mouth, like,
Mhm.
I've never had cakes like that. And she would say, "Oh, you know what, makes my cake so good?" She said, "I put a lot of love into it.
Wow.
Pray over it when I'm cooking," And
Wow.
so, yeah, it was really special. So, like, in the neighborhood where my, great-grandparents lived,
Mhm.
it's the 7th Ward,
Okay.
and there was a corner store called Miller, and like the corner stores today, they don't carry fresh produce and all that kinda stuff.
Right.
But with this one, Miller would get fresh produce, fresh meat, all the stuff that people needed in that neighborhood, and they wouldn't even go to, like, the chain stores because the food there wasn't good enough.
Mm.
And so they would call and it was like a kind of a European lifestyle
Mhm,
where
mhm.
they would call Miller, pick out what they wanted, and then send us to the store to pick it up.
Wow.
And so the food was fresh every day. They plan their menus kinda by what Miller
Love it.
so,
Wow. Love it, love it.
yeah,
That is special. That is really
yeah,
special, to have those memories and to know that that was a part of the lifestyle back in that
right.
time. So I wish we could really get back to that.
Oh, I know.
No.
Amazing. That was
So a lot of people, when you talk about Creole, you talk about Cajun, different flavors. So let's focus on the Creole. Tell me the essence for you of what that means in terms of flavors and ingredients when you're cooking Creole cuisine.
well, when I think about Creole cuisine, and I know in my family, who I would say they were, it was a Creole lifestyle, basically.
Mhm.
It's all about the tomato.
Okay.
So the tomato was a part of just about every dish. And so, like in Louisiana, we sometimes say red gravy or brown gravy. So
Okay.
the brown gravy was considered more Cajun,
Okay.
you know, and then when you had that tomato, tomato and whatever it was, it would have a red gravy. So, like if you look at jambalaya,
Mhm.
the first time I saw a brown jambalaya, I was like, "Oh, these people don't know what they."
Didn't trust it, huh?
Right, but then I found
Mm-mm.
out, oh, that's the Cajun way of doing it.
Got
They
it.
don't use tomato paste or, tomatoes in their food.
Right, and when you think about it, think about Creole cuisine and you think about what the French, the Spanish, and African, that's the tomato is prominent in in African cuisine as well,
Right,
right?
right, like the jollof rice is
Mhm.
jambalaya without the, andouille sausage. You know?
Absolutely, and so
Right,
love just tracing the food history back,
right,
for sure. And
and
so mhm,
oh, no, I was going to say by New Orleans being a port city, we had, like, that rich Mississippi, soil,
mhm,
and this is one of the only areas that tomatoes grew naturally.
right,
So, and, like, when you think about Cajun food, it's usually a one-pot meal,
right,
and they cooked what they caught.
mhm,
But the nice thing, one of the best things that Cajuns gave to us is the crawfish boil.
right.
You know, but, like, boiling the shrimp, the all that kinda stuff, everything they caught, and they put it in a pot and seasoned it up real well, and so that was, you know, an amazing contribution from them, but, with the Creole, it was a lot more sophisticated, sauces, that sort of thing. We were a port city,
Mhm,
and as you said, we had all those different, cultures blending, and they brought a lot of things from Europe that were
mhm,
incorporated, and from Africa. Um,
absolutely.
every dish has rice, so, you know.
And we know we cultivated rice, that's for sure.
Right,
Those that
right,
were brought or enslaved to the States, we know that that was a main crop.
right.
In terms of the cook shop, when did who was telling those stories and then you took it what was how long was that restaurant open?
It was open from, like, the late, um, 1700s, like, late
Wow.
1790s to about 1825, somewhere in there.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so, before, like, you had, a culture of Black people being entrepreneurs and that sort
Mhm,
of thing, especially in New Orleans.
mhm.
And, at a certain point, they just lost everything. A lot of them lost what they had.
Right.
And I have one great uncle who's still alive, and he said that the restaurant was taken from them,
Oh, wow.
basically, because they felt like Black people just could not have a restaurant in the French Quarter.
Mhm.
And today, that spot is actually a parking lot.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Wow.
So, and it's weird because that was my favorite parking lot in the French Quarter.
And then you discover
Yeah, and then I found out it's like a lot of times I would wait for somebody to leave. It's like, "No, I got a parking," like, that was my lot. Like, I don't know
Wow.
why. But, yeah, then found out that was where the restaurant was.
Ah, I tell you, it just makes your
Yeah,
stomach turn, just your
yeah,
eyes roll.
yeah, I'm like, "One day we're gonna get it back."
Absolutely.
That's the dream.
So
Yeah.
was the name of your spices, did you automatically from the beginning wanted to name it after the restaurant, or were you toying
No,
over
I
some
did.
names?
I was thinking of doing a meal kit,
Okay,
and it was going to be called a casual connoisseur
okay.
because it's the kind of thing where, people want to know something about, a topic or experience a certain thing, but they don't want to really get deep into the weeds of researching and studying and learning all this stuff. So, I thought a casual connoisseur. But
Mhm.
then as my aunt and I, we started looking at things because with the meal kit, I wanted to do our family recipes.
Okay.
And my aunt and I started doing research, and um, my mom was like, "Well, we called her Big Mama, okay, my great-grandmother. Big Mama always said that it was the cook shop, that was
Mm.
the name of the restaurant because we wanted to bring in some of those recipes. Um, everybody in New Orleans thinks that their family cooks the best.
Of course.
It's like nobody does gumbo better than their mama's gumbo, that sort of thing. But my family was really known for having amazing food. So even like after people would like they would do suppers sometimes.
Mhm.
And my mom said that people would, when they sold out, they would ask for bread and gravy
Okay.
just so that they could like just get some of the taste of it, you know?
Wow.
And like the food was just really, really, really good. So I wanted to kind of share that, and when I saw the name, like, the cook shop, it made perfect sense to do
Mhm.
it, to name it after that.
Wow. So let's talk about this a little bit of the challenge of the who can cook the best. When you're tasting food,
Mhm.
what are you looking for? What is that feeling? What is that sense that you're like, okay, you know what, this is good based
Right.
on your family?
I just wanted to have I just wanted to be very, very well seasoned.
Mhm.
It's like it doesn't have to be it's not overpowering or anything like that, and it's not anything that's hot. So, you can have a little kick to it,
Mhm.
but the way that people interpret Cajun now is that it's just as hot as it can be, and that's not what Cajun food was.
Mhm.
The way that I did my seasonings is with the Cajun, I use the Holy Trinity, which is the
Okay.
basis of just about every recipe in Louisiana,
Mhm.
and that is your, onion, celery, and bell pepper. So, in France, I think it's onion, celery, and carrots. It's called the Maurepoix or whatever, but
Yeah, and then you got the EPs in
right,
Haiti, and then you've got
right.
so I love, again, how that travels all around.
Right, exactly. So the base for the Cajun is the Holy Trinity, and then all these other vegetables, herbs, and spices that my family used. And then for the Creole, it has the tomato powder base.
Mhm.
So, and then the other vegetables, herbs, and spices. And so I guess what I look for is like that. I don't want it to be flat. I want it
Mhm.
to be kind of layered and something that just really brings your mouth to life, like
Right.
uses all those different taste buds that you have.
Mhm.
Like, let's invigorate all of them.
Absolutely.